Thank you for taking the time to watch this episode of Life Support. If you enjoy the content, we would ask that you like it, hit subscribe, and share it with your friends. Hey, welcome to Life Support. It's so good to have you here. What we love to do on this show is tell stories. We love to talk about how Christ intervenes in different situations and just learn about what God is doing around our country and the world. And we have a great guest for that today. His name is Jimmy Duke. He's the executive director of Act One, and we're going to find out what exactly that all is. And thanks a lot for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so you're in Los Angeles, or at least the Los Angeles area, and you've got this thing called Act One. Tell me about that and how it came to be.
Yeah, so thank you. Act One was founded, excuse me, Act One was founded in 1999, so we've been around for a little while. We were founded by a group of Christians that were professional writers and producers and filmmakers working in mainstream entertainment. And back then, a lot of these Christians would discover each other while working, like, say, on a movie set or on a studio. A studio lot. They would bump into each other and they would realize, wait a second, I'm not the only Christian here. There's other Christians working here, and they started develop. This was happening like in the 80s and early 90s. They started doing coming together and doing Bible studies and prayer groups and just trying to encourage each other. And over the course of that time, they began to ask, well, wouldn't it be nice if we could replicate ourselves, right? Like if we could have more of us, more Christians working in mainstream entertainment, maybe we could really make a greater kind of positive impact. And so that was the initial idea that birthed Act One. Back then, there wasn't a lot of, now there's quite a few opportunities for Christians to study screenwriting and producing and things like that. But back then, there wasn't that many options. And so a lot of these professionals came together. It actually was originally a part of a church called the First Presbyterian Church of Hollywood. And they said, let's start a program that would train screenwriters, train Christians to write for the screen, for film and television, and we will teach the classes. So from its inception, Act One was always geared and influenced and taught and formed by working professionals in the business. And so a couple of years after that, they said, you know, it would be great if we could actually now that we're training people on the writing, it would be good if we could begin to train the people who make the decisions on what to make, the executives and the producers. So we launched our executive training program, and then a year later combined it with the producing program, and I think in 2002. So we've been doing that since then. So we train and equip Christians to work in mainstream entertainment. Our two primary programs are screenwriting, where we teach you the art of writing for film and television. And the other one is our producing and executive training program, where we teach you how to make film, how to produce film, all the different aspects of it, as well as potentially maybe being a creative executive in the C-suite. And I was there at the beginning, Paul, but I was a lowly peon. I was just like an assistant. But I was there in 1999. I kind of helped launch things in the background. And I came back in 2016. The board offered me the position of executive director. And so I have been the executive director since 2016.
Is it difficult for believers to navigate that industry?
Oh, definitely. One of the things I like to say about Act One is we're a discipleship ministry, because we obviously are discipling you professionally, but we also have to disciple you spiritually. Just for the simple fact that, and let me also be clear on this too. I don't think our industry is necessarily more challenging for Christians than, say, other fields, like the law profession or the medical profession or things like that. What I would say is, because it's such an upfront industry, right? Like, it's an in-your-face industry. It's entertainment, meaning we're beaming into people's homes, onto their phones. Like, people take us with them. It's you in our entertainment-driven culture. It's ubiquitous, right? That there's always something on someplace, somewhere. That we have a disproportionate amount of influence, right? So media has a disproportionate amount of influence, and so because of that, there are unique challenges to Christians that work in this business. There is a tremendous temptation towards fame and towards money and power, and there is a lot of temptations in the business that I think other people experience in other industries too. It's just that this one's more heightened because people see it, and celebrity and fame are a part of it. And you might not know who the most famous medical doctors are, but you do, unfortunately, know who the most famous actors and directors and writers are sometimes. And so with that, I think comes a lot that can, as human beings, we're not created for fame. We're just, fame is antithetical to the human experience. God is famous, and we are designed to worship, and our worship should only be focused on Him. He is the only one that should be famous, and yet, throughout human history, we have found other things to worship, other people to worship, and other people to claim that fame. So that is a dangerous place to be, and that's a business that we work in. So if you don't keep that kind of stuff front and center, it can be a very challenging place for Christians to work. But having said that, Paul, what a rewarding, beautiful industry for Christians to work into. That's why we do what we do, because we believe in the power of presence. If a Christian is not on a film set, there is a difference between that film set and the film set where there is a Christian on that film set. Mm-hmm. There is a difference in that C-suite if there is a Christian in that room versus one where there isn't a Christian in that room. So nature abhors a vacuum. It will fill that space where Christians have abdicated their responsibility in the arts. It gets filled by other worldviews. And it is really, really important that as Christians, we go into these places as salt and light, and attempt, to the best of our abilities, to be Jesus's hands and feet, and to love people where they are. And in this business, you can't get into those rooms unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's why we train. I
was just going to ask you about that, because Christian entertainment has a reputation sometimes of being, I don't know.
We know that reputation.
Yeah.
We know that reputation.
So if you want to have that kind of influence, how important is it that excellence emerges from the work that's being done?
100%. Excellence is the megaphone. You still have to have something to say. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's, your life well lived for the sake of the gospel is what you're supposed to be saying through that megaphone or through that microphone. But once again, in order for me to build a relationship with people, to have that kind of influence, I have to earn the right to be in the room. And that's what excellence is. That's why we train people at the highest level, and try to equip them to have a sustained career in the business, because you don't get the chance to do what we want to do, frankly, if you're not good enough. And hey, look, we all need Simon Cowells in our lives, right? There are many people who think that they're talented in certain areas, but Paul, I'll be honest with you, talent's overrated. And in this business, I would much rather take someone who's just so talented, but can work circles, has a tremendous work ethic, and will persevere and will be persistent and determined. we can work on the talent. It's the other stuff. So look, excellence is incredibly important, and you're exactly right. To be clear, Act One, we are training and equipping Christians to work in mainstream entertainment. Now, we have a lot of our faculty and a lot of our alums who have segued over into this subgenre that has emerged over the past 15 years. This kind of faith-based kind of stuff. And so we wish God bless them. Go forth, do wonderful things in that space. But we're focused on mainstream entertainment. And one of the reasons why that is that's because that's where most people are. And so one of the reputations that faith-based has is low quality. I mean, we know that. Everyone knows that. It's not a secret. It has gotten better, and we celebrate. We celebrate those small victories when you see the quality improving. And but one of the things that people have to be careful with is, what is it that you are seeking to accomplish? There are many people who would tell you that art should only exist as a means to an end. In other words, art does not have inherent value in and of itself.
Right.
And so there are many people that work in the quote unquote faith-based space, the Christian entertainment space, or however you want to call it. And they're very clear, and I appreciate the ones that are honest and upfront about it. They will tell you, we're making gospel tracks. Like we're trying to save the masses. We're using media for the glory of God to create content to preach sermons, right? And hey, that's great for them. And if there's an audience for that, wonderful. But I tend to, I gave my life to Christ as a 6-year-old boy, and I've been in church. I jokingly tell people I was baptized twice. The first time I was baptized was in my mother's womb because she was baptized when she was pregnant with me. But then when I chose to follow Christ as a little boy, I was then baptized. So I've been in church my entire life, and I've sat under a lot of wonderful pastors, been in a lot of different contexts, and I fully understand why that mindset exists. But the truth of the matter is, art in and of itself has value and has worth. We don't need to put anything into it. It has value in and of itself. And that value is imbued from the artist. And we see this even in Scripture with God and his creation of us, right? And so to me, whenever I hear that, I just simply say to those people, hey, blessings to you, go off and create work. But it's important for people to know you can just create something that it's just funny. Like just write a funny movie, just write a scary movie, write a sad movie, write a dramatic movie. It doesn't have to contain the gospel presentation in order for it to quote unquote have worth. There's a little bit of a debate that happens in our community over that, but that's where we tend to side, is on the side of that all value has inherent worth.
Well, it seems that secular and Christian are kind of divided. I remember when somebody was covering a Josh Groban song on Christian radio, and I just went like, "What are you doing?" Like, I want to hear Josh Groban sing. I mean, God gave him his talent too. What are you doing? But so there seems to be a little bit of confusion about some of, I think what you're saying is wonderful, because I think too much Christians expect certain things from certain people, and they won't engage if it's not their thing and written by the right people and all that.
Yeah. And look, once again, I understand as a parent, I know what it's like to protect my kids from a bunch of junk on and film and TV. I myself don't want to fill my mind and my eyes with certain things. I understand all that. And I think there's value in this subgenre where you can go, but in the end, I want to watch something good, right? And there's a difference. And so a lot of people, they say, well, it's well-intended, right? And so my response to that is, if I hire a plumber who's a Christian, and they come over and my toilet is clogged up. And after working for 4 hours on my toilet is still clogged. And he looks at me and says, well, I mean, I came over with good intentions. Well, I was well intended to do my best, but I'm going to hire a different plumber, right? Yeah. So I appreciate that these filmmakers are well intended, but I want to watch a good film. And so I want you to develop your craft and be so good at your craft, right, that your message is buried so deep within that craft, it cannot be extricated. It cannot be removed because you've buried it so well. That's a part of what it means to make a good film, is to bury your themes so deeply that they can't be removed, and that the audience can pick up on those things instead of these kind of overt, preachy. Yeah. What I always tell people, Paul, is I prefer my sermons on Sunday behind a pulpit, and I prefer my movies on a movie screen, and I don't want to swap the two, right? Like I don't want my sermons from the movie theater, and I don't want my movies from the pulpit at the church.
That makes sense. Well, Alan Ritchson, the star of the Reacher series, has rattled a lot of feathers because, wisely or unwisely, he's taken these topics on basically, and why do you guys act a certain way on screen, and why does a Christian say this, and what kind of language are you using, and all this, and he seems to be genuinely trying to sort some of that out, but what gives him credibility? He's done a good show. Yep. He's a good actor, and everybody watches the show, so he has credibility to say things.
Yes, and especially someone like as you, who you're a pastor, I think you have a good understanding of this. Well, sometimes a lot of the arguments and debates that kind of arise when people like Alan start saying stuff is people will start to question people's Christianity and their faith. And really what's happening there is it's actually a morality conversation. Right? Like what's really being debated there is not Christian faith. Mm-hmm. It's morality.
Yeah.
And by all means, have that conversation. We should be having that conversation. We should be having it in the church, outside the church, around the church, right? But there are a lot of Christians who will they will confuse that conversation one with the other, and they'll start questioning people's faith because they chose to act in a certain type of movie or play or what have you. And I think that's dangerous. And I think we have to be very, very careful with that kind of body kind of judgment towards one another.
Mm-hmm. You were also involved with Five Stone Media and the Turnip Seed films.
No, I wasn't. I had nothing to do with that. Please don't put any, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I love your brother. I know he's in there somewhere hiding. That's why I was joking. Yeah. Yes, I had the privilege of working with Steve and Five Stone Media, the original Five Stone guys back in the day. The origins of Five Stone, they formed around the making of the Turnip Seed film, which I had the privilege of producing and directing, and it was a wonderful experience to connect with those guys and really become one of the caretakers of John Turnipseed's story, which to this day I think is one of the most powerful examples of God's just radical grace and pursuit and transformation and the idea of redemption, of redeeming someone. Like I always tell people, John was a bad dude. I'm sure you probably talked about, your audience probably knows a little bit about the Turnipseed films. John Turnipseed before Christ was a bad dude, but he was skilled. Like he had talent, and that talent, he used it for nefarious purposes. And when God got a hold of him, though, that turned his redemption. He was redeemed by all of a sudden his talents were used for God's glory. And that to me was one of the most beautiful, powerful examples of God's redemption, was the way John was able to use what was you once used for evil for good, and it was a beautiful thing. And I love John and miss him dearly.
Oh, well, Minneapolis misses him too.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So Act One, you're training professionals for that industry. How does someone who might be listening going, wow, like I might be interested, or I know somebody who might be talented enough to try that, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, they just go to act1program.com. It's just spelled out, act1program.com. Check out our programs. Check out, we just wrapped up our summer Hollywood writing program for screenwriters. And September 1st, I think, is the deadline for our producing and executive training program, although I think usually we extend it all the way to September 15th. So if you hear this anytime before then, you can reach out. You can look at the application process and fill it out. Yeah, we're looking to, like I said earlier, populate Hollywood with followers of Jesus. So if you feel like you whether you have no experience or you have some experience and you want to just learn how to have a sustained career in this business, either as a screenwriter or as a producer or creative executive, reach out. They can contact me through the website and pray about it, and they can apply. And our screenwriting program typically is it's a intensive over the summer months, and then our producing program is an intensive that takes place over the fall months and a little bit into the winter months. And we actually culminate. It's kind of a fun thing. We culminate our producing experience at the Sundance Film Festival. So we have a lot of fun with that. And by the way, both programs are offered virtually. So you can take it anywhere around the world. You don't have to live in Los Angeles to take our program. Both programs are offered online virtually.
Okay. And one serious question about that. Do you have to be a Dodgers and Lakers fan to get in, or can you? Yes?
Yeah.
No program is perfect. So.
Yeah, we take a blood sample and it has to be in your DNA. No, just kidding. Absolutely not. I am, of course, I'm a hardcore Lakers fan, but I was a Lakers fan before I moved to Los Angeles. And apparently other people are too, because the team sells on a regular basis, apparently.
Yes.
Your good news for your audience. You do not have to be a diehard fan of the local Los Angeles teams, particularly the Clippers. You don't have to be a fan of the Clippers in order to take our program.
I'm not sure the Clippers even fit into our conversation, but thank you for mentioning them just for them. All right, one more time, how to get a hold of Act One.
Yeah, so you can just go to act1program.com, and you can also check us out on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook as well.
Awesome. Jimmy Duke, thanks for spending time with us. It's been really good to get to know you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless you guys.